Welcome to the Scale of Gray. I want to thank you for watching, if you've watched before, and if not, I want to welcome you. But the Scale of Gray is based on the idea that most of life is lived in the gray. Most of daily life is lived in the gray. And don't get me wrong, there is plenty of black and white in the world. But in our day and age, we seem to make things unnecessarily black and white and create enemies that just don't need to exist, and hate and dissension that just doesn't need to exist. Getting to tomorrow is usually hard enough, that we don't need to create enemies that don't need to exist. And so the Scale of Gray is going to be a collection of stories, your stories, to show that we are all a lot more alike and a lot more similar than we would care to admit. And hopefully get people to listen, because I think most of that dissension and most of that hate comes from people listening for their turn to talk, not listening to hear, and not listening to hear context. And so these stories are that context. As always, structure is super simple. I've got two questions. What is an opinion that you hold that you don't tell anybody about? It's something you just keep to yourself for whatever reason. And question two is, what is an event in your life, or what is a thing that has happened to you that, again, you just don't tell anybody about, and you keep that secret to yourself? And then I'm asking you to give me your context. I'm calling it the Venn diagram of your life. What are the things in your life, your experiences, that have brought you to that opinion, or that put you in that place for that event, and why you don't talk about it? I really hope that collecting these stories and having these conversations can show that despite having differences and being different people, we can still get along and we can still be friendly to each other, even if we disagree. So again, I want to welcome you to chapter 4 with my friend, the Herbalist, which is a terrible name because you're not an herbalist, but I think it's fun and kind of does actually fit you. So, what did you choose? Question 1 or 2?
I chose question 1.
Okay.
And the thing that I, just keep to myself is, I don't talk about politics. For one, is it can create an environment where folks get mad at you. I've seen family members, stop talking to each other like that. So I don't really talk about that. I think everybody has a right to their opinion, and I mean they can talk to me about it, but per se I won't I won't just start out a conversation like that.
For sure. So what is the opinion
On politics?
Yeah.
I think people have the right to believe what they want to believe.
Okay.
I think that everyone has a right to, they have an opinion on who they like, who they don't like.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, I think that you can have that opinion, but it doesn't necessarily have to create an environment where we hate each other, or we disagree with each other, or we don't like each other, or we stop talking to each other.
Yeah.
I think that opinion, it's valid towards people. With me, I believe what I believe, and I keep it to myself.
So you meant keeping it to yourself, politics as a whole, not a specific.
Just in general.
Okay.
I don't talk any of that stuff with my friends or family or anything.
Do you, which is interesting because I don't shy away from it, but I generally don't give my opinion either on most political topics.
Yeah.
Unless I'm engaged in the conversation. Do you face the same thing that I seem to face from time to time, where people, they essentially will say that I'm the problem because I don't talk about it, because I don't engage in it, because I don't go out of my way to, super openly project my opinion. Not just that I don't voice my opinion very often, but
right.
it's almost as if they're assuming that like I don't vote,
Mhm.
and they're saying, "Oh, you're the problem. You don't vote," or
Right.
you can't complain about problems because you don't vote. Do you face that at all?
Nope. Never, never have I faced that. Not yet, anyway.
Dang, that seems unfair.
Yeah.
Did you have an occurrence that brought you to keeping politics kind of out of your life?
I've seen how it's broken up families
Mhm.
and friendships. And so I'm like, I'll just keep that to myself,
Yeah.
because I don't care either way, but I just don't. I've seen what conversations like that happen, and it does tear families and friends up.
Is your family very political, whether in activity or in just conversation?
I think in conversation,
Okay.
and so I tend to like stay out of that.
Do you vote?
I do.
Okay.
Do you?
I do. I can't say I vote for everything.
Yeah.
I'll vote on local matters and state and federal, and I'll be honest, even though I did vote in the last 3 political elections,
Mhm.
truth is I didn't cast a vote for president.
Interesting.
I think a non-vote is a vote in and of itself, personally.
I agree.
It is a mass minority vote or voice, because it's technically it's not counted, right?
Yeah.
When they're tallying votes. So it's kind of, you're not voting, you're not placing a vote, and so you're not being counted, and so it's kind of like an inaction, I guess is the right way to say that. The truth is I haven't had any confidence in any faith in any of the candidates,
Right.
truthfully.
Yeah.
Listen, they're all people capable of getting votes and being in these positions. Sure, like nobody's going to vote for me, and I don't want the job, and
Yeah.
it wouldn't be the right thing for me anyway. But like I couldn't get there. You couldn't get there. A lot of our friends. Nobody's
Speak
going to.
for yourself. I think I could get there.
All right, out of turn for sure. I'm glad you hold yourself in high regard. But yeah, I had people when I was in high school and learning about the political system, and I've even had people like like my mom. She worked in politics and handled elections in
Really?
some cities that she lived in.
Nice.
And so I got to see kind of the inner workings of it at a local level, right? Not the federal or anything like that. And I once asked her, I was like, what do you do when like you don't agree with either? You don't think either would make a good leader or a good president? And her answer is one that I've heard before, and I think a lot of people share this opinion, which is, you got to go with the lesser of two evils. And I didn't like that answer then, and now that I'm older, I like it even less.
Yeah.
I don't want to have to resign myself to that.
Yeah.
And frankly, the whole thing's going to move on whether I personally cast a ballot for a Republican or a Democrat. Like it's going to keep on rolling either way.
Yep.
But I resonate with why you hold your opinion.
Yeah.
Because I've had bosses that treat people in the office differently based on their political views.
Really?
Yeah. Not to a point where like you should get HR involved.
Yeah. Yeah.
But to a degree where it's like it's got to be uncomfortable to be that person.
Yep.
And so me well enough to know that like if I give my opinion on something and it has a poor outcome, I don't care.
Right.